Hello and welcome to the Business of the Business podcast. I'm your co-host JP, John Posh, with a two-man power trip. Of course, joining me is the Doctor of Style himself, Dr. Lavie Margolin. Lavie, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, John. I had one of those weird moments where, like, something that you're newly into, suddenly you're a part of it. So, love WWE Vault. That's my pro wrestling go to. If somebody said what wrestling do you watch these days? Especially John, we were talking about recently, I think off air, the Hearts against the Steiner brothers, and then suddenly there's a half-hour match that appears, which was a lot of fun to watch today.
Yes.
But years ago, a friend made me aware that I was in B-roll footage on the For All Mankind Mick Foley DVD. And then suddenly I saw that it's on the vault. So it's like a whole new life to it. For those that want to look, it's about an hour and 34 minutes in. It's in the period where there's the book signing in Times Square, Mick Foley's first book, Have a Nice Day. And I'm outside in my Green Bay Packers jacket. And then there's a shot of me inside waiting online.
Nice. Look at that. Superstardom here on the WWE Vault. And I love that Steiner's Hearts match is on there too, which is awesome from WrestleFest 94. Love that. Good stuff. I'm going to have to check out you on the Vault as well.
Yes, it's amazing. And I saw that there's like a Bret Hart, a whole slog of stuff that was just put up that I haven't seen yet. So that's really become, and it's interesting, that's become my go-to for pro wrestling on YouTube. You know, there's a million things you could watch. I love finding the territories and everything like that. But obviously the quality is high of what they're putting up, and it's engaging, and they keep feeding it to us. So I keep cutting back. And for me, like the bits and pieces of what I can watch during lunch or till the kids get home or right before bed or whatever, it's really digestible, and it speaks to me as a man in my mid-40s.
Love that. Love the vault. Love they're putting down out there. But what's going on in the news? What is the latest with TNA Wrestling?
Yeah, so Romy, our friend, guest of the show and recent panelist with me, dropped another great in-depth article. I was trying to cut it down a little bit because it's 1,200 words, but not getting too far because all of the content is of value. So if you'll all bear with me here, I'm going to basically read most of it because it's really on point for the type of things that we discuss. I've been thinking a lot about the trade-offs between reach, revenue, and what sustainable growth actually looks like in today's fragmented media landscape. One shift since then has especially caught my attention: TNA's growth use of free platforms like YouTube and Twitch to distribute full-length shows. A few recent moves stand out. The weekly shows airing first on Thursday, then hitting YouTube on Friday as part of TNA Free Summer, monthly live special events like Sacrifice follow similar pattern, full next day release on YouTube. But this past week marked something different: a live simulcast of the brand's Impact on YouTube at the same time as its premiere on TNA Plus. With Slammiversary on the horizon and a strong talent presence in New York for media, I assume the simulcast might be a one-off stunt, maybe with bonus content or a midday show call to action to tie it in. But when none appeared, it looked less like a promotion and more like an experiment. I love experiments, but every test comes with trade-offs. This one raised a strategic question that goes beyond TNA. Are we building visibility or value? The default assumption, more eyeballs is better. If I ever ask what people's opinions are, the first response seems to always come back: they're getting eyeballs on the product, which has been the prevailing wisdom in media for over 30 years. More reach equals more relevance, more revenue. But in 2025, that equation doesn't always hold up for every business. These days, visibility isn't value alone. In fact, chasing raw visibility can sometimes come at the expense of sustainable revenue. Attention is currency, but only when you convert it. We live in an attention economy, like Mr. Beast, Logan Paul, and Trump. Show how quickly visibility and flooding the timeline can translate into real-world outcomes. Let's skip ahead a little bit. At TNA, the infrastructure is or was TNA Plus, a purpose-built subscription video on demand platform, $9.99 a month, recurring revenue. Email, capture, and own the fans' phone for push notifications, merchandise discounts and integrations, and so on. A direct relationship with the audience. Every new subscriber stacks. Every retention ever pays off. It's not just monetization, it's also leverage. So why risk it with free simulcasts and full shows? Excuse me. By airing shows on YouTube, even at a slight delay, the concern is cannibalization. Why pay for something I can watch for free? What's the difference between platforms? Does it teach your most loyal fans that patience pays more than members? Whether or not that happens all depends on intent. If YouTube is the top of your funnel and you're actively converting viewers into something great, a strategy can pay off. But if not, the numbers start to tell a different story. So what makes sense? The math, YouTube versus subscription. Let's use TNA's most recent pay-per-view special against all odds at a rough benchmark. It had 171 views on YouTube. Estimated monthly monetization at a generous $20 CPM, $3,500 per show. Multiplied by 4 additional shows, $17,500 for programmatic YouTube ads. Sign a sponsor that month, maybe $100,000. Merch uplift that month, say $25,000, like 700 t-shirts sold. So $142,000 a month. Sounds great until you compare that to 30,000 subscribers. So this is an interesting point in that we haven't gotten too many data points on number of TNA Plus subscribers, and Romy has 30,000. Paying $9.99 a month, so $300,000 every month, recurring, predictable. 171K views might be 80% more people seeing the show, but 30K subscriber brings in 260% more revenue, and they're not anonymous. It stacks up too. At $2,500 new signups, and you're at $325,000 per month. Those users are known. You can retain, upsell, engage them. They have your app on their phones, ping them with ticket sales, and so on. On the YouTube side, 88% of the revenue in our forecast requires a human to make phone calls and close a deal or drive to your merchandise and buy click. It's hard to make money. So what's the end game if the revenue math is tough to rationalize? Many in the industry see visibility, but in pro wrestling, the air is thin. Cable is a melting ice cube, and so on. Let me just scroll down here to the final point. It's such a in-depth article. I encourage you to seek it out on LinkedIn. So one thing that I absolutely love lately is how the brand is now hosting historical content watch-alongs. It's a great way to re-engage fans, get them talking to one another, and subtly drive them to sign up for a service that lets you watch everything on demand. 10 out of 10 using content that likely is unutilized. Additionally, I've always been a fan of the social team's use of YouTube for recap shows, clips, and general promotion. That's a sweet spot. But I'm coming around to the opinion that this shouldn't be the place where the brand's most valuable IP lives. Not without a plan to turn that attention into the most scalable revenue that builds brand equity and ultimately leads to higher comps if you plan to sell the brand later. Visibility does not necessarily equal value. So was the test worth it? If the simulcast of one-day events is a test with measurable conversion goals, if it brought in new users to TNA Plus or helped close a big money sponsor, then yes, absolutely worth trying. So definitely encourage you to check out the full article. What do you think, John, about like YouTube? I feel like the percentage of people that are going to go there and then convert to a sale is so low. So like, you know, how important is it to get people aware of the product as compared to putting it behind a paywall?
Yeah, I don't know. That's always kind of a, 50-50 thing to me for a lot of the times, because yes, you'll get more eyes on it, but will they really be a paying customer, or are they just, one of those window shoppers kind of thing where they're just going to go watch it for free and that's it? That's always a slippery slope for me, because it's like you want YouTube, you want the visibility, you want more people watching, but do you really want to give it away for free? Like even MLW is giving stuff, their shows away for free. I don't know if you really want to do that.
Yeah, 100%. I think like with TNA, it's important to show that, what they're doing now and the product seems to be received positively. And certainly with NXT, They're even promoting Slammiversary tonight, as I'm noticing on X as we're recording this, but like sort of like let people know there's a new TNA, but not necessarily like the main driver of revenue if it's subscriptions or not just filling a venue by giving away tickets, but having people actually pay for the tickets and so on, which for the most part they are. And the only giveaways that we're aware of is to vet ticks, which obviously that's a great idea and important and fits everyone's needs, but not give it all away. But that's that. But TNA certainly unfolding their live event strategy or taping strategy between now and late September. So just to recap of that, Slammiversary, obviously July 20th, Rhode Island, 24th and 25th, Baltimore, the August 15th and 16th, Minneapolis, September 4th and 5th, and Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, September 26th and 27th. So they went for the mega on sale day where you sort of promote everything at the same time. And we can't see the Canadian side of things yet, but in terms of Baltimore, it looks like a quarter house setup, maybe a third of a house setup. It just went from pre-sale to on sale around the time we're recording this in the last couple of days, so early to tell. Something to note with the Minneapolis Armory, interestingly, and sometimes you see this patterns where it's like first row on sale, second row not, third row on sale, fourth row not, and so on. So when you're counting tickets, or WrestleTix pretty much does that for us now, that's just something to note. You want to look at patterns early. With Canada, it's just showing like it's not showing a map on Ticketmaster. You can look sort of what are the best seats that are still available to get a better sense of trajectory, but early there. Slammiversary. So we don't have, we're recording a little bit earlier this week, so we don't have the next week's numbers in terms of ticket movement, but the thing to watch is, did more than 500 tickets move compared to last week? They're getting all the promotion. Jokingly, they may have jinxed the Mets into one of the worst baseball series debacles that I've ever seen reported, John. I don't know why people are so negative, but it seemed like they really got slammed by the Pirates over the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And now they have, as we're recording, this is a big rainstorm, or expected at least in New York, so there's going to be a double shot there. But I think the Mets did win on the night that TNA threw out the first pitch, so you can't blame them for everything. Recently announced there's a charity softball game in I think a Long Island baseball field connected to a high school. So the thoughts of co-promotion with GCW to promote each other's shows are out the window in that regard. Not that anyone was talking, just we were speculating that it might not be a bad idea. And Rhode Island looks like about a third of a house or a quarter of a house, as well. So early for all the new shows. The most intriguing thing at the moment is Slammiversary. And John, I can't reveal the details yet. And some of the points from the article, but I was asked to consult, might be a strong word, but I was asked to take a look at a deep dive business piece from a source well known to us, looking at TNA ahead of Slammiversary. So once that article is live, I think by next week we'll have it, and we can dissect some really interesting things related to TNA's business.
Oh, okay. Something to look forward to there. Love dissecting a TNA business for sure. Now, just as far as the Slammiversary, it's obviously it's coming up in a few weeks. Will it sell out though? I mean, they got 1,000 tickets remaining. Obviously, if all goes well, they'd want to open up more tickets. But do you think they'll get 1,100 more tickets sold?
Yeah, and not to open up the Pandora's box again about what's a sellout, right?
Right. Yeah.
I don't want Pens. They're mad at me. As you brought to my attention, I like some of his banter now on X, even though I'm not following
Yes.
it. But will they move 1,000 tickets in 3 weeks? I think so. Now we're not going to know necessarily, or actually, WrestleTix does cover it well. Like, how many are going to be vet ticks? How many other comps will there be? But I think that there will be plus 1,000 in the building. I think, though, in terms of the sellout, quote unquote, number, I think they'll increase the capacity. So it won't necessarily mean like filling every seat that they have currently open. I think that, as they get closer to the number, they'll like open it up more. So what will like a final capacity look like? So maybe it'll be like 5,500 seats open and 4,200 people seated, something like that. It's hard to tell. Sometimes you have this like trajectory momentum where things just start taking off and click and so on. I didn't. I think I shared it, but I didn't actually watch the segment yet on NXT. Like, was this new triple threat thing like talking people into the building? I know people were upset with Mike Santana not being in the original main event and now being added. Like, did it come like in a natural way, smoothly, or did it like not necessarily kill his momentum, but like hurt it a little bit? Are people still like hoping that maybe he'll win the belt, or obviously split between Joe Henry or something like that?
It'd just be interesting to see if it does indeed sell out, quote unquote, sell out. What is going on with Sukeban, your arguably favorite Joshi promotion?
Yes. So announced that they're joining forces with TikTok. So I mentioned this when I went to Sukeban, and I know it sounds like too unbelievable to be true. Like, especially for me, like to be there hearing this, but I'm not sure if I was sitting where I should have been. Like, I kind of actually no, I did buy like a front row ticket, but like it seemed like most people in the front row were like people that work there and things like that. But when it was in New York over a year and a half ago, but they basically said we're not making any money from TikTok. Like, this is what the person said. I don't know who they were and if they were knowledgeable about that, so it might not even be true. But what type of formal relationship is this with TikTok? I'm not sure, but they use the TikTok logo and Sukeban logo. All that to say that they have a pretty interesting experience upcoming. Sukeban and TikTok join forces for immersive fan experience, bringing the Sukeban universe to life at Anime Expo 2025. In partnership with TikTok, Sukeban will create an innovative experience featuring interactive programming. Okay, since we're going to read the actual press release, we don't need to do the summary at the top. So let's see here. This is taking place July 3rd to 6th, so basically in motion by the time you hear this. The immersive action will give Anime Expo attendees exclusive access to the world of Sukeban, celebrating anime, manga, Japanese culture through a dynamic lineup of programming. Additionally, TikTok will be presenting partner for the first ever World Championship fight, taking place July 5th at one of the Expo's featured performances. This 5-match card will bring together Tokyo's toughest wrestlers and girl gangs in a battle for the championship title, headlined by reigning world champion Sari Bam, defending her title against challenger Maya Mamushi. Sukeban's, okay, so let's see. Oh, what actually was most interesting to me was the multi-day experience and how it's just so different from what you would typically see at like a wrestling gathering. So crafting workshops, makeup demo, fan walkout photo op, film screening, karaoke from the ring, nail art demo, hairstylist demo, actress and comedian panel discussion. Let's see, that's repeated a couple of times. Then the championship, so that's Friday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday is the championship title match. And then Sunday is more fan photo ops and film screening. So they've always been well connected to the fashion, hairstyling, millinery world, just hat making. So kind of a cool experience, and obviously like an anime expo is sort of that crossover of what they're going for. Actually, speaking of manga's cousin, I think it's an interesting time to mention the passing of Jim Shooter. John, were you ever like a comic book guy?
Yeah, definitely. More like X-Men, Spider-Man, Batman.
Yeah. So of course, Jim Shooter is sort of the in late 70s to late 80s at Marvel, like sort of known as sometimes, unfortunately, not fondly, sometimes fondly, when you're the boss, that happens, for sort of like Chris Claremont's run on the X-Men, that sort of thing, Secret Wars, being very successful there. And then he started his own company called Valiant. So, of course, Valiant had Battlemania. So I thought it'd be an interesting time to reflect on, from his website, what he thought about Battlemania. One of my favorites. I adamantly resisted any suggestion of doing licensed WWE comics. Bad, bad, bad. Valiant, as you may know, was forced into a license to do WWF comics by my corrupt partner, Steve Mazarski. This is his words. I have, Mazarski, who represented both Leisure Concepts International, the WWF's licensing agency, and Valiant. Can you say conflict of interest? Mazarski made a ton of money personally by making a deal with himself with utter disregard for what made sense for Valiant, and I was stuck with actually producing WWF comics. Working with the WWF at Valiant had been a nightmare. They'd been uncooperative on every front. They honored none of their promises about helping us market our books. They were insane with regards to approvals. No drawings we made of the wrestler was ever adequate. The absolute worst incident involved a cover featuring the Ultimate Warrior that they rejected. I went to their offices in Stamford to argue. Their approval nitwits said his nose was too big. The Ultimate Warrior's face, however, had been traced from a photo. I myself had traced it. I showed them the photo. I showed them the tracing. I had a light box with me and proved that the tracing was exact. No good. They insisted that the drawing was wrong. His nose was too big and the cover had to be redone. I went back to our office and said, print it. The WWF approval nitwits later thanked me for making corrections that weren't made.
Good stuff there, Lavie. You're pulling that out of nowhere there with Jim Shooter. I love it.
Yes, I actually had it. I was looking Jim Shooter Valiant, and I had it from his website years ago, but I never clipped it. It was just like a curiosity to me because, as longtime listeners know, I love the WWF and WCW versions of comic books through the mainstream. Some of the independent wrestling stuff is a little bit hit or miss. It's always a little bit of that evil promoter archetype type of thing, which I can't always get into, but cool to see all the different styles out there.
For sure. What is going on in the world of MLW? Talking about some different styles and stuff. Now they're getting into the trading card game.
Yeah, MLW and Panini America announced exclusive trading card partnerships. Whenever I hear Panini, I didn't have a lot of them, but I remember going on vacations and getting Panini sticker books. And you find the sticker, it's number 60 from the pack of cards, and then you affix it, ruining the value or whatever, affix it to your book. And it was a good feeling. So, I'm curious. I know Panini America is a lot lower profile than the presence they have in Europe and maybe around the world. But sometimes I think it's great that they get these partnerships, but what is Panini expecting in terms of brand recognition for MLW, if they're going to be putting out these cards everywhere? But obviously everyone has to do their homework. MLW and Panini announced a multi-year exclusive partnership. As part of the agreement, Panini becomes the official trading card, memorabilia, and collectible sticker partner of MLW. The partnership begins with Panini commemorating some of the most memorable moments from Summer of the Beasts, which took place on Thursday, June 26th. I'm trying to resist making a joke, like not making a joke, where I say like what was memorable, but obviously if you watched it, I'm sure there's something. Many points so they're doing this thing which I think Topps does not a lot now, which is like the instant card, right? Like something happens on like Raw, and then the next day they're like tweeting out, "Get your card." It's like, whoa. Additional MLW products from Panini will be available at mass retailers, including Walmart and Target, in hobby stores, and so on. As MLW's global presence grows, partnering with Panini, it's the perfect next step, said Bauer, with the world's top-ranked fighters throwing down. Okay, so fine. We are looking forward to this new partnership with MLW. As MLW continues to grow and expand internationally, we are positioned well to help them reaching wrestling fans on a global basis and bring trading cards to wrestling fans, said Mark Warsop, Panini America CEO.
Interesting. A few years ago, WWE had some Panini cards that were out. Actually, last year and this year, they have some Panini cards. So Panini stepping up their game as far as the pro wrestling world is concerned. And hey, maybe they can make an MJF card. He made that surprise appearance on MLW on that show. So maybe they can make an MJF Mystico card.
That would be interesting. You know, that though, I think like Upper Deck could be like, hold on, you know, like, right, like when you're working with a promotion, do you have the right to say like your contracted talent belongs to us, or if they cross over, then do you get the rights to that? So that would be an interesting question mark, you know, in that regard. But interesting that like Fanatics, right, has basically like captured a lot of the market, right? Did they buy Topps? I forgot what the whole story was, but like, they're sort of like, you know, have the biggest leagues or highest profile sports like products. So some of these other companies, if they want to be in it, you have to work with some of the challenger brands or lower profile products.
So what's going on with Real American Freestyle? What's going on with Real American Freestyle Wrestling right now?
Yeah, so I only can say a little bit because unlike Hulk Hogan, I did not do a major investment, according to the article. So Tampa Bay Business Journal reported that Hulk Hogan's, you know, this is interesting. Like they're already very dim on it. I know that, you know, WrestleTix had the numbers like when tickets first came on sale, and they weren't impressive, and kind of everyone was making jokes about it, but it says Hulk Hogan's new Tampa Wrestling League flops with fans. So that was pretty quick to judge. But so I didn't buy the article. But the point that was interesting, Hulk Hogan raised just over $3.5 million for the Amateur Wrestling League in May. So so at first I was like, Hulk Hogan, you know, spent his money, but we know he's smarter than that. So he raised $3.5 million. And that's, you know, I don't know like what it takes to start a league like this, but I'd imagine, you know, it would be in the millions of dollars just to get going with like staff and the celebrity commitments and, you know, the wrestlers and booking these, at least the initial venue and whatever else they have planned. And of course, Ben Askren was named, you know, initially as a participating wrestler. Obviously, going through a very tough time, but it seems like there's some good news that an anonymous donor paid the $2 million for the double lung transplant that he had. That's already occurred. So, wishing him, you know, well, obviously a good life, whatever he chooses to do and is in health to do, but obviously not going to participate as a competitor anytime soon for this promotion.
Interesting. What about NWA? What's going on? Anything interesting going on in the world of the NWA right now?
So the thing to look at, 77th anniversary show at the Paramount in Northwell Huntington, New York. 205 tickets distributed thus far. 25 ticket increase since last week, WrestleTix reported. And as we're recording this, there's a taping going on in Tampa for NWA Power. There were still some tickets left for the small PBS studio, but this is sort of their home front when they do tapings, as announced in an article, I think last year. So one of their main venues that they'll utilize when they're not utilizing something where they're, let's say, hard times, and then they're taking the product and breaking it up, into 5 parts, and probably using Tampa more and more as they have the increased fast distribution, where there's commitments to have some additional new programming.
What is ACW? Which promotion is this in the Caribbean?
Yeah, so this is the controversial All Caribbean Wrestling. It seemed like there is a that Mark Henry is attached to. It seemed like there is an increasing firestorm of wrestlers complaining about how they perceive their treatment from the promotion. But it seems to have quieted down, and I can't speak for that. But always cool to see wrestling traveling to other places, and of course a history of wrestling in the Caribbean. Of course, a wonderful book out there about it too. But stage set for the return of All Caribbean Wrestling to Baja Bash 2 in the Bahamas. At the Grand Hyatt Baja Mar, featuring Bahamian Kayla Capri and heavyweight champion The Pope, Elijah Burke. ACW CEO Mark Henry said at a press briefing at Breeze's Super Clubs that they are delighted to be able to bring another edition of Baja Bash back to the Bahamas. That's a lot of bees. The event is being facilitated by the Ministry of Tourism. That's always cool to see. Like, what does that mean, right? Is there a financial incentive? Are they just helping to promote it? We have a rich history of pro wrestling in the Caribbean. I talked to a guy named Norman Smiley, who wrestled here in 1994 as Black Magic, and he can't wait to come back. There are so many people that now know we are running the Bahamas and they want to come here. We just have to get the sponsorship where we can up our money and to pay for people to come here. Interesting, candid share. As they continue to develop their brand, the Bahamas, Henry said they'll put out one of the most vibrant shows ever staged by ACW in the Caribbean. We had a great show here last time with over 650 people, and we had to turn away 120. We won't be turning away anybody this time. They added adequate space for us to hold about 800 to 900 people. Hopefully we can get those numbers. ACW's COO, Jeff Brazel, said the Bahamian people have embraced them, and that is one of the reasons why they decided to come back and put on another show. Having something for the Caribbean people who love pro wrestling is really huge. That's why we decided to bring it back here. And you could seek out the article for more details, which is in the Tribune by Brent Stubbs. Again, called Stage Set for the Return of All Caribbean Wrestling, Baja Bash 2 in the Bahamas.
Man, Caribbean wrestling, is that hot again? I mean, what's going on with the Caribbean? I know your boy Ian Douglas wrote a book all about it, but what is going on down there in the Caribbean?
No, what's interesting is that until ACW was on the radar there, I wasn't aware of too much going on. I'm sure there were some local things that WrestleMap at the time they were looking closer at such things could find, but especially like Mark Henry, who doesn't, have to attach himself to anything, especially on the independent level if he doesn't want to, but he's stuck with them and working at it, even at whatever controversy might arise.
So we are waiting for a guest, I believe, right, Lavie boy?
Yeah, yes. A guest should be arriving soon, but July 1st. The summer is moving quickly. One of the interesting things is you don't see as obviously we see the TNA and GCW, but I haven't seen as many wrestling ballpark shows announced. I guess NEW has one or two, and some of those other like super feds, but it's not like as big a thing as you used to see.
Remember a few years ago, Global Force had that whole like baseball tour where they were doing all baseball. Like, what's going on? I thought that was a great thing. I remember Blue Claws years ago here, not too far from me, Lakewood always had wrestling night. They always had like big wrestlers come in. What's going on? They gotta start that up again, especially when wrestling's getting a little hot right now. They got to do that. It makes sense.
Yeah, to me, it's like the perfect like one-time thing for summer, where for the ballparks, like you have fans that are coming all the time, and on off nights you can sort of serve them with things. So like prime the pump, like I'm not sure of the minor league systems. I know it varies depending, but like if it starts in mid-June and then like late July, you have like a concert or wrestling show or both. Like every time people are coming in certain percentages that varies, you announce the show. It's like perfect to get people there. And like, especially if you have a mainstream product where you can get some people to attend.
When you're looking at that, I wonder if, I don't know, maybe is it expensive to run the parks or something? Like, I wonder what the thought process is there.
I think that either it's like a sold show, like my guess would be like for like the traditional show, it's either like a sold show where the ballpark will like pay a flat fee, or like in coordination with like maybe a split of the ticket sales as opposed to like buying a particular paying like a flat fee for the show.
Just seems like that's like a cool venue to do. Like I remember even Blue Claws, Bret Hart was there one year. DDP was there one year. I know there wasn't technically like a wrestling show, but it would just be kind of cool just to get that going again. I know they sometimes do Star Wars night. Let's do wrestling night more often. That would be great. That would be pretty damn cool.
Yeah, I'm now more familiar with the Blue Claws since the what's it called? The Cyclones. We're playing now on the nights for GCW that they were promoting it. The Brooklyn Cyclones, I actually saw their predecessor before they moved many years ago in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, which is the part of Massachusetts closer to upstate New York. My parents used to go there for in the area for like a week or two when I was a kid, and there was the Pittsfield Mets, and it was one of the oldest ballparks in the U.S. Metal seats, built into the sun. So while you were watching the game, the sun was like right in your eyes. I guess. Well, it was in the summer, so it never really got much darker for a game if it started 6:30 or 7:00. But I think that there were wrestling shows that did well there. Because I think those are like some of the perfect towns, as we saw with like Ipsy, White Plains, which isn't obviously too far outside New York City by train, but like something, especially let's say like for the Northeast, like WWF, well, probably more WWF, where they used to like go through for shows, and then they stop, but you have fans that want to see the show, and probably even now, right, as we've talked about, like pent up demand, where you have markets that are not being served. So I feel like there's something there. I don't know if it would be like AEW coming in, like people feeling that, like, because of just not that they don't have the talent that would cross over, because you could actually have like, okay, John Moxley, but you're not going to say like formerly known as whatever with the Shield, right? But I think it takes like a certain type of marketing where you're going for like the fully mainstream fan to engage them.
I actually went to a TNA. Remember, they used to have the base brawl show. This was back in 2012 at MCU Park, which is now My Minis Park, where the Brooklyn Cyclones play. So, interestingly enough, I actually, they seem to be the only park, one of the only parks that consistently always books wrestling. Did over 3,000 fans. I remember it was pretty jammed. It was pretty packed that day. Sting versus Bully Ray was a damn good match. AJ was on the card. Rob Van Dam was on the card. The main event, Austin Aries defeated Bobby Roode, so it was a pretty loaded card. And obviously Sting was kind of the promotion of like the main event, but he was like he technically was second to last match. But that was kind of cool. The back in the day, the fact that they would do that, and I love that they're still doing wrestling today with GCW going there.
Yeah, like I feel like with the TNA when they show the clips on television, that it really it looked great. And I think even one year like it was reported like 4,500. But I saw an article written about it, and I don't know if you experienced this, but it seemed like that they took a lot of time to try and make money with like autographs and photo opportunities in the intermission.
Yes.
But you remember that?
Oh yeah, they were definitely trying to make some money for sure.
But maybe that killed the gimmick, as they say. But then also, obviously, like you had, then late, right? Like so that they kind of petered out, right? Like in terms of doing it there, and then Ring of Honor took it over, but it was never like as big. But they did pretty well. But then what killed that, right, was that NXT would do like a once a year show for a couple of years in Brooklyn. So I went to the NXT show, which it was actually amazing. I think it was like Sasha Banks against Bayley. It was definitely Sasha Banks, like as like one of the first times that they highlighted like women's wrestling as like a main part of the card, which was amazing, like to sell out like Barclays with NXT. And you're like, wow, they really do have like a third brand now, and how much that went downhill. But I think that hurt things for a while, right? Until GCW, booked the venue this year, and our guest is on the way. As parents, we know that trying to put the kids to bed sometimes they're not ready. So that's why we're on standby here.
Oh, no doubt. That could be definitely a difficult task sometimes, putting those kiddies to bed when they don't want to go to bed. I know that for sure.
So, John, I want to commend you. I listened to the Fur Face from the Hogan years.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what you were going to say, right? Because what is there to say? But it was very very compelling. I'd never heard like a thing about that at all. Like it was like I mean I watched till the Vault came out, and but I never heard like anything like any reference to it or whatever. Like you'd have like things where it was like, what was it, Fantasia or Phantasma, right, from USWA, who had like one match, and like you always hear about that, but this thing I never heard about.
It's crazy. I remember there was a picture in the magazine of the Mariner, and they're like, "Who is this guy?" And like that one weird look with what he had, where it looked like almost like fisherman gear on. And I was like, okay, that was a weird thing that they were going to do with Beefcake. You couldn't even wrestle at that point. He was just going to come and interfere, like very very weird stuff. And I'd never even heard or saw the Fur Face part of it. So I was like, wow, this is so interesting. The Vault. So I was reading up on it more and looking up on it more. I was like, wow, they actually were teasing an interview with him. I was like, what the hell? Like, what would they have done? And Piper on commentary is kind of intimating that it's Greg the Hammer Valentine for some reason. And then Vince is like, it's not Greg the Hammer Valentine. And then Valentine was fighting Earthquake. And then Furface came out and gave him the headbutt. And kind of like we're teasing this Earthquake Earthquake Furface feud. And that could have been a WrestleMania match. I was like, wow, I did no recollection of that whatsoever. It's just so weird. It's just one of those things where it's like, thank God they didn't do that. It was such a bad gimmick, a weird gimmick.